Some houses aren't homes. Some tables aren't meant for you. That's the first thing I thought when I stepped into the Whitmore estate again after 3 years away. The lights were golden, the garlands perfectly placed, and the scent of rosemary hemp filled the air. But none of it felt like comfort. It never did. I took my usual seat, near the kitchen, the least photogenic corner of the room, the coldest chair, just out of the camera's frame when Maris insisted on taking family shots for the newsletter. That was always my place, close enough to be counted, far enough to be forgotten. Silas Whitmore, my grandfather, sat at the head. He was thinner than I remembered, eyes sharper than ever. He didn't speak much, just tapped his fingers against the table, waiting for the laughter to die down. Sterling, my father, was already a glass too deep, telling some recycled story about closing a deal in Savannah. Maris smiled, that thin-lipped smile that always reminded me of glass about to crack. Grant and Fiona whispered, laughing behind their hands. Then came dessert, and with it the envelopes. One by one, Silas passed them around. No words, just a glance at each of us. When he reached me, he held it out just a second longer. Family tradition. Sterling called out, tearing his open. Let me guess, another Monopoly check? Maris laughed. I hope it's got better fonts this year. I held mine in both hands. I didn't laugh. I didn't say anything. My fingers were still when I opened it. Inside a check. No note. No explanation. Just numbers. $100,000. Real. My breath caught. Sterling's envelope fluttered to the ground. Cartoon money, he snorted, holding up a check with a dog's face on it. Everyone roared, except Silas and me. He looked at me, locked eyes. This time, he said, voice nearly a whisper, keep it safe. The room buzzed with wine and laughter, and for a second it felt like I was somewhere else, somewhere 10 years old again, holding a torn birthday card, being scolded for not being grateful enough. Except this time I didn't cry. I just folded the check slowly and slid it into my coat pocket. The glass shattered before anyone realized Silas was standing. Then he wasn't. He clutched his chest, dropped like a marionette with cut strings. Chaos exploded. Grant shouted for someone to call 911. Maris screamed for her pearls. Sterling cursed at the butler for not moving fast enough. I was the only one who knelt beside him. His hand found mine. Cold, weak, desperate. It's yours, he rasped. Not theirs. Don't let them take it. Then the sirens came, and the flashing lights, and the performance resumed. The next morning, I stood outside the bank. My coat was too thin. My hands were too cold, but I walked in anyway. The teller smiled politely as she took the check, ran it through, paused. Do you know, she asked gently, this is valid? The funds are available. I nodded, didn't speak. I remembered being 14, asking Silas if he trusted me. I'm waiting to see, he'd replied. My phone buzzed. Sterling. What did you do to him? He growled. Then silence. That night, I sat on my old futon in my small apartment. A message blinked. Fiona. I'm just saying, her voice purred in the voicemail. You should think hard before making this ugly. A text came next. Maris, you've embarrassed yourself enough. I opened the envelope again. It crackled in the silence. Behind the check, folded once, was a photo. Me, age 8, in Silas's woodshop, covered in sawdust, smiling like I meant it. I hadn't seen that photo in years. The tears came, not from guilt, from something heavier. Recognition. He'd seen me. All these years. Through all the silences, the clipped dinners, the birthdays spent at school, while everyone vacationed in Aspen. He'd seen me. I stood by my window. Snow drifted down slowly in Charleston, rare and quiet, the kind of snow that didn't stick, just reminded you of things that used to be. Reflection prompt. Have you ever held something you didn't think you deserved, only to realize it was always meant for you? Moral dilemma prompt. Would you accept a life-changing gift from someone you loved, even if it meant upsetting your entire family? I woke before dawn. Charleston's winter air was raw, the kind that makes your lungs burn and your heart ache for no reason. I pulled the envelope from my coat, and that heavy weight in my pocket felt like a loaded secret. It wasn't just about the check. It was about everything they'd ignored. Coffee in hand, I drove past the Spanish moss-draped oaks and into the mild panic of my mind. A quote by Maya Angelou came back. You may shoot me with your words, but still like air I'll rise. I repeated it quietly, knowing I was about to rise in ways they'd never expected. The first domino fell that evening. The Whitmore estate looked the same on the surface. Lamplight glowing on the pines, the front doors open, but inside the air had shifted. Maris called a family emergency meeting, the kind of phrase that means someone's in control and wants the rest to panic. I arrived, collected, posture firm. No trembling this time. Sterling opened the meeting with false concern. Dad's memory isn't what it used to be. We're talking guardianship. We're stepping in. I watched Maris sit back, front row, but her finger hovered over a hidden texting screen. Grant smirked, but he wasn't sure. Fiona bit her lip. They thought they controlled the scene. I stayed silent. The memory of turning 14, cold and alone, while Dad talked business in another state, flashed through me. They tried to say I was ungrateful then. This time I recognized the script. I wasn't playing. Grant slammed an old photo of Silas and me into the center of the table. It shattered glass and decades of neglect. He sneered, Your turn's over, Kella. Maris leaned in, Return the money. Make this quiet. I stood. I'm not returning anything, I said. This isn't about the money. It's about the message. My voice didn't shake. I would not give them that power. After the meeting, I slipped out. The Charleston rain pattered on my umbrella. I met Miles Denton in a dim hallway of his law office. He raised the briefcase slowly. Inside the documents, version 2 signed 2 weeks ago. An envelope marked Whitmore Estate. Key. Legal strings attached. I took a breath. The paperwork's solid, he said. We start tomorrow. I nodded. I remembered Silas Warren workshop where I helped him carve my first gift. He said, I trust you not because others do, but because you do. Tonight I had to trust myself. Later, I returned to the house of garage smells and old wood, the same workshop that taught me precision, silence, and value. I found the dusty box I'd carved with Silas when I was 12. Inside lay the faded photo of us, smiling mid-sawdust, 2 rebels in a world that didn't see us. Fiona's car idled outside. A note on the hood read, Payback comes quick. The engine revved. I locked the door. Silence became resolve. I sat at my small apartment window, city lights blurred. I pressed my thumb over the photo. I realized they'd counted on my weakness, but they forgot one thing. I'd grown strong while pretending I was small. I looked at the check again, then looked at the envelope. I whispered, This is what you made me. Would you step into conflict to defend your truth, even if it means losing the comfort of silence? The Whitmore estate hadn't changed, still towering, still cold, but tonight It didn't feel like a homecoming. It felt like a trial. The dining room glowed with forced warmth, a sheen of polished wood reflecting brittle smiles. Calla stepped in wearing a simple navy dress, hair pulled back, chin high. Her steps didn't falter, even as every eye tracked her like prey. Silas sat at the head of the table, dignified and tired but unshaken. Beside him was Miles Denton, the family lawyer. Sterling and Maris sat stiffly, their tension barely concealed under expensive fabrics. Grant and Fiona were whispering again, nervous, sharp. Calla's eyes scanned the table. She didn't see a family. She saw opponents. Some rooms feel familiar until you realize they were only pretending. Ever felt that? Silas rose, his cane steadying him. I invited you here because I wanted clarity and I found it. Sterling was on his feet. Dad, with all due respect, your mind isn't clear. We're concerned. Calla didn't move. Maris leaned forward, voice sugary poison. It's clear what's happened. Calla's manipulated your generosity. You've always had a soft spot. Calla exhaled slowly. You think I forged this gift? Let's show the proof. She nodded to Miles. The lawyer stood calm and efficient. You all remember this, I'm sure. He pressed play on a small tablet, screen turned to the table. Silas's voice filled the room. Calla was the only one who thanked me. That was all I needed. The silence that followed could crack bone. Grant shot to his feet, knocking a wine glass to the floor. This is a joke. A setup. She put you up to this. Would you defend a truth when everyone you love doubts you? It's lonelier than you think. Then, suddenly, Maris gasped, hand to her chest. Oh God, Sterling! She collapsed into her chair, breath shallow, eyes darting. Sterling rushed to her, shouting for someone to call someone, anyone. Fiona stood, half rising, unsure. Calla didn't flinch. She walked to the side cabinet, opened it, pulled out a black folder. She placed it on the table, facing Silas. Inside, the signed will, the key to the estate vault. The proof. Miles opened it. As of this document, signed, witnessed, and notarized 2 weeks ago, the full transfer of the Whitmore estate and assets is declared effective immediately. To Calla Whitmore. Sterling's voice broke. You're stealing from your family. Calla looked at him. I didn't take it. You gave it away. Every time you ignored me. Every joke. Every absence. Every look that said I didn't belong. This is what that cost. When the ones who called you nothing become furious, you're something. How do you stay grounded? Silas stood slowly. The person who stayed silent too long is standing now. The old man's voice carried more weight than his frail body ever could. The room stilled. Calla picked up a small frame from her coat, an old photo faded at the edges. She placed it beside the documents. Silas and a young Calla in the woodshop covered in sawdust, smiling. Miles nodded. It's done. Grant leapt up. We'll fight this in court. Silas didn't flinch. Try me. Sometimes you don't need a fight. You just need proof and the courage to present it. Calla walked out before anyone else could speak. Outside, snow had started to fall, gentle, quiet, but steady. She stood beneath the oak tree Silas had planted before she was born. The branches stretched wide, protecting. In her hand, the envelope, now empty. She whispered, I didn't crave the money. I just refused to be invisible. This story, it's just beginning.